Hello, my name is Nick and welcome to Watch This Now. Dracula is a new miniseries brought to us from BBC and Netflix that is now streaming. It's from the guys who did the Sherlock series, a show that I've never been into, but I know a lot of people like it, so hey, maybe you will too. Now, we've had plenty of adaptations and reiterations of Dracula over the many years. There have been plenty of different things based on Bram Stoker's classic novel. I personally love Nosferatu, the Universal Monster version of Dracula, and Francis Ford Coppola's Dracula. I love this story. I think it's fantastic. And I think if you are going to take something like this and redo it, you have to be doing it better than anyone has ever done before, or find a completely new and fresh way to tell this story to connect with modern audiences. This miniseries tries to do both of those things in the most mind-boggling way. The classic tale of Dracula goes a little something like this. A man heads to a countryside castle to handle some documents. He ends up becoming a prisoner of Count Dracula. Count Dracula hops on a boat, travels to London to stalk that prisoner's honey. He ends up forming a connection with her. They have a thing. So naturally he decides to hook up with her best friend, and by that I mean he turns her into a damn vampire. And then homegirl, she gets her man back, but he's all sickly now after the whole vampirification of what he's been going through. And then, everyone hunting down Dracula. Van Helsing shows up. He's a really plot-convenient vampire hunter. And they come after Dracula, and it all ends in tragedy, and, whatever. The fresh approach to Dracula 2020 seems to be to treat it like a horror comedy, which could be interesting, I guess, but it spends so much of its time poking fun at, the rules of vampires, oh, you can't go in the sunlight? Yeah, no, that's how vampires work. It just seems to be making fun of those things without adding any new layers or depths or answers to anything. And also, in terms of it just being plain cheap, there is a lot of CGI bats and a lot of bad CGI looking bullshit in this show. It just looks horrible. The structure of this show is something on its own, because the first half of the first episode feels like actual Dracula, and then it gets way into what it's doing, and I was completely lost. I was not into this take on this material at all. Call me a purist, but I love that original tale of Dracula, and if you were to tell me Netflix is putting out a 4.5-hour, 3-episode version of Dracula with a nice, good, solid budget, I would be so on board. In fact, that's what made me watch this, because I thought, hey, maybe they'll do an actual good version here. The show is broken up into 3-hour-and-a-half long episodes, and yes, way too long. It was just grating. I thought that they were going to be able to do a whole bunch of new and in-depth stuff with this material, and instead, they twist some bullshit around, and I am like, this is just no! Dracula is a no from me! There is something that I thought was so stupid. Done. We got horns. We got horns. There was something done in this show that was so stupid. But, I don't want to spoil it for anyone who does want to give this show a chance. I know it has high ratings. Some people are really enjoying it. But there was an element to this original story that was very mysterious, that I think is iconic in a way, or so memorable to Dracula fans because of that level of mystery. And then here in this show, they dedicate an entire hour-and-a-half episode into stretching out that mystery and just doing it to death, just beating it to death. And I'm like, why? Oh, that totally ruins one of the strongest aspects this show could have had. Clive Spang is pretty much perfect in this role. He just looks like Dracula. I mean, for a little bit, I was just kind of into it for him. What can I say? I like him tall. But no amount of sexiness could save this show. It was unfortunate. I wish it got sexy. This is TV 14. Not like you can't make good horror TV in a TV 14 format, but Dracula is just one of the sexiest horror stories that there ever was. And so much of this feels like it's watered down, but then trying to throw a lot of blood at you to make it seem like it's not so watered down. It just didn't work for me. I was so disappointed in this show. What I think a lot of people are connecting with it is the way that it sort of makes fun of the material, and it makes fun of vampire lore. I felt like this was bordering on being an absolute farce, and that was disappointing to me. Maybe I went in with the wrong expectations, but overall, Dracula just completely failed to entertain me. I know I can bitch a little bit about horror comedies, so this just certainly was not made for me. But it's really unfortunate and disappointing because I think this could have been an interesting take on Dracula, but it wasn't done in a way that won me over, and ultimately, I do not recommend this. I'm giving Dracula a 2 out of 5. If you are a die-hard Dracula fan that has to watch every single version, go for it. That's your time. But if you want to listen to me and save yourself a good 4.5 hours, you could probably binge an entire other show, like Shrill on Hulu. It just wasn't funny, and it wasn't sexy, and it wasn't scary. It just wasn't any of the things that I thought this show should have been. It also, again, just looked really cheap as hell, which was unfortunate. I mean, I know my little YouTube videos over here are not the highest of production value, but I'm not fucking Netflix. What did you guys think of Dracula? Let me know in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching. I greatly appreciate it. Like this video, share it with your friends, subscribe to watch this now, and I'll see you in my next video.